Dreams. What are they? What are they all about? Are they there to teach you something? Are they there to predict your future? Are they a simple brain dump of all of your daily activities, thoughts, and sensations? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Deep Speak, where we ask the questions to the answers of the universe. Follow our crazy trains of thought as we start on one topic and end up
in a whole other dimension.
Good morning, everyone.
Dreams. We've been waiting to cover this one for a while.
Dream.
Another one of my favorite subject matters.
Dream a little dream of me. I love dreams. It's actually something that I wanted to be when I was really young. I told my mom I wanted to be a dream researcher.
Ooh, that's cool.
I wanted to hook people up in their heads and have them sleep and dream and then research brain patterns and how they relate to your dreams specifically. And I just it's one of the most fascinating things because I think it's one of the things like consciousness itself, we don't really understand it.
Mm-hmm. So since you're talking about that, you want to run through the basic brain waves real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about those.
All right.
As Nikki Sutton says, what does she call it? Beta. She calls it
brain
beta.
Waves.
I love Nikki Sutton.
Our normal waking consciousness, logic, reason, also related to stress and anxiety.
That is the beta waves.
Yep.
Beta dreams. Beta waves in your brain, yeah.
So these resonate with hertz. So again, you think that we're not, magnet or electric beings. You're not doing your research. The alpha is deep relaxation, meditation, imagination, usually around 7 hertz, 7.5 hertz.
Okay.
Is what the actual wave is in our brain. Theta is the REM dream state, rapid eye movement, for anyone that doesn't know. Yep. And that's often experienced as well, the theta wave drifting off and waking from sleep. So it's that transitional state of mind as well.
Mm-hmm. I always call that the in-between state.
Yeah. Which some describe as euphoric as well. That brain wave seems to bring a sense of calmness or in between that theta wave.
Yeah, and you can reach that through meditation too.
Yep. And then meditation usually is between alpha and theta. And then delta is the deep dreamless sleep or almost near unconscious. Some think that that's the gateway to collective consciousness, and that's things we can't remember. So that's the deep unknown is the delta. We don't really...
Oh, I didn't even know that. Mm-hmm. I've always known alpha, beta, and theta, but I guess I've never really researched the delta.
Yeah.
Besides our delta 8 products.
Right. So there you go. There's the basic definitions and where they are, what they produce in our brains.
Right. And we go through them. We cycle through them. Obviously, we go from conscious to, and then all the way through. And you go in and out of them, right?
Yes.
Throughout the night.
Throughout the day, too.
Oh, throughout the day?
Yeah. So we spend a lot of our time in beta, but we actually cross over into sorry, hang on.
Isn't it theta when you're zoning out?
Yeah, I think daydreams. I could be wrong. I didn't write this down, but I think theta is your daydreams. Yeah, or light meditation. So you could just be zoning out on lunch break or something.
Or what about when people get zoned out into a movie or a show or a book or?
Yeah, I believe that's.
I know Nikki Sutton covered that.
Yeah.
We'll probably put a link to her actual YouTube video on it because she explains it really well. She does hypnosis too, so she really understands those wavelengths. And we're not scientists like Dr. Fauci, but we also we've looked into it, but we also just want to talk more about our own experiences and what different types of dreams are, not necessarily what state you're in when you're having them.
Yeah. Yep. We just wanted to cover that to give people an idea of what their brain is physically doing. And after that, we just wanted to discuss the basic types of dreams that most people experience and then dive deeper into more the types of dreams that aren't really talked about as much and our experiences.
Yes. And before we get started, I want to ask you all a little favor. If you could just take a look at your phone or whatever you're listening to this on and hit the like button. Hit the like button real quick. Leave a little comment saying, hey, how y'all doing? That really helps us out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the bell for the notifications to see when we drop new stuff on a weekly basis, or we are splitting up all of our longer podcasts into small, deep bites also.
All right. So now that you've done that, you want to dive into some typical dreams that people experience?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
All right. The first one I wanted to bring up, you called a subconscious dump.
Yeah, brain dump.
And it's interesting because when I look up the basic types of dreams, I never saw anything that really describes that. But it's basically sort of like like you said, a subconscious dump where like anything that's on your mind or on your mind that you may not be aware of sort of all manifests itself.
Yeah, it's kind of like all day long you're taking in so much information through all of our senses. Your brain is thinking through problems and solving things, as much as something as big as like, how do I make rent for the next month, or something as minor as, what am I going to eat for dinner, which I guess that can be big for a lot of people too, or like, should I turn left or should I turn right? All of those sort of things, and any sort of fears that are coming up through you throughout the day, subconsciously also, because a lot of stuff we run on our subconscious more than our conscious, right? Like 80% of us, our decisions, our behaviors, and everything is all just kind of running in the background. And that's all based on like past experience, the lens through which we see the world and ourselves and everything in it. So all of that stuff is just kind of like you're just computing. Your computer is working overtime all day long. And then when you go to sleep, it's kind of like a defragment or a clearing of your memory or closing out certain files.
Closing the open windows you had on your computer all
like
day.
The tabs and stuff. So sometimes it's just that, where your brain is just like closing out the solutions to problems.
Yeah.
And just kind of like maybe running through some of the programs that we're running during the day and just kind of like cleaning them up. And I think that's probably the majority of dreams or dreams that people have, are just these flashes of images. There's no rhyme or reason, or like it's not like a storyline necessarily.
Which is a different type of dream.
Right. Yeah. So
now,
I think
do you think that those are just what we remember, or is that a different subject?
Well, remembering your dreams is something.
Yeah, do you think that what I'm saying is, do you think that most people just remember the subconscious dump dreams, maybe about their daily activities? Or is it really the most common?
I think it's the most common, and I think actually people remember more of the storyline ones. The ones that impact you emotionally.
You're right.
Are the ones that people will remember more, because emotion hangs on longer than a thought does.
Yes.
You can remember how something feels, and like that's what people say about people. Like you can people remember how you made them feel more than they will remember what you told them. So, and that's the same for stories and movies and all that sort of stuff. You remember how you felt about that movie or whatever, more than you remember exact details of that movie.
Right.
And it's the same thing for your dreams as well. That's why whenever I talk to people about dreams or try to help them do dream analysis, I always say, this phrase I always say?
How would it make you feel?
How did it make you feel? Because that was so much more important than the symbology that goes on. Is that a word? Symbology?
It is now.
Symbolism.
Symbolism.
Symbology, I like that. Symbology. If it's not, I think we should create it. I think that's more important.
Yeah. You always did that anytime I would bring up a dream, and I would laugh at it, but it's true because I'm a visual dreamer. I don't want to get sidetracked, but it's interesting because people dream differently too. Like, turns out in dream research, like a lot of people have similar things, but people are individual in their dreams as well. Some people claim that they never see faces. I've heard multiple people say that, and that's really weird to me.
Well, because when you're dreaming, you're not really seeing things, or maybe that's different for me than it is for you. But even like, it's like right now, if you close your eyes, okay, everybody do this experiment. Close your eyes and think about a polar bear. Okay. Now, are you seeing the polar bear, or are you seeing what you think a polar bear looks like? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, your mind is imagining white fur, bigger, creature.
Coca-Cola commercial
Coca-Cola.
from the 90s.
Yeah. So, with sunglasses. Oh, God. Now I have that visual. But it's like your mind is putting together pieces. It's not necessarily a image in your eyelids. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Like,
the
you're
mind's
seeing,
eye.
Yeah, you're seeing pieces of it, and then your mind is pulling all those together to create a visual for you. But it's not an actual visual. It's just a perception of a visual. If that makes sense. Because I personally think that's how our reality works too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A totally different subject, but yep, definitely. It's all a bunch of information, light entering through your retina, in this reality, and then how you process the
and
light
put it all
and
together,
put it together,
including stories.
Yep.
We fill in the gaps. So there's one that you forgot, one brainwave that you forgot, which is gamma. So there's beta, alpha, theta, and gamma. And just for everyone to know that hertz is basically a frequency that's measured in like cycles per second, is what that is. So beta is the 14 to 40 hertz. So that's, like you said, the normal waking consciousness. Alpha is 7.5 to 14 hertz. And that's like deep mental relaxation when your eyes are closed during a daydream or light meditation, right? And then theta is the 4 to 7.5 hertz. So it basically goes down in hertz as you go deeper.
Yeah. That's the peaks and valleys you'll see.
Right. Yeah, that's so cool. And so that's theta is where you're really in deep hypnosis, deep meditation, or like kind of like a light sleep. Yeah, like you said. And then delta is the 0.5 to 4 hertz. And like you said, that's the deep, deep sleep wave, the slowest of the frequencies. Yeah, dreamless sleep is what it is. Very deep transcendental meditation or hypnosis states are there. And then gamma waves are above 40 hertz. So gamma waves are, the insight wave is the most recently discovered wave. Yeah, that's probably why you didn't have that one down there. And it's also the fastest frequency. So obviously it's above 40 hertz. So it's moving at a very high pace. So it's above all of the rest. And not a lot is known about it yet. So it's a state of mind. They're kind of associated with bursts of insight or like high level information processing. And I think that it falls in line with what we would call like level 7 thinking. So level 7, what I always taught in my coaching were 7 levels of energy. And they're usually associated with emotions. So levels 1 and 2 are more, levels 1 is more fear, sadness. And then level 2 is really more of like anger, frustration. So it goes all the way up to level 7. And level 7 is this high level of like there's no contrast. Everything is blissful and equally blissful. And it's those moments where you're like standing at the edge of the ocean or staring off into the beautiful night sky or experiencing the birth of a child. And it's like your heart is so incredibly overwhelmed and you feel fully connected with everyone and everything in the universe. And I think that's I think that's really what maybe they're discovering what gamma waves are, is this high level of like almost intimacy with the world.
All right, so another, what they call a normal or common dream, is basically on average like 4 to 6 times a night. The ones we usually remember are in the waking state or just after REM sleep, which is also theta waves.
Mm-hmm.
And those are sort of linked to our subconscious dump dreams, so-called, where they're about people, experiences, kind of common duties that we're doing, all
Like
day,
repetitive things that we've
stuff
done.
like that. And we just kind of mash it
Mm-hmm.
up, and our brains like process through stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
similar, but it's not I don't think it's quite the same as like a subconscious dump necessarily.
Okay.
Another common one is daydreams,
Mm-hmm.
which everyone knows what a daydream is.
Well,
but
maybe
that's
they
interesting.
don't. Describe it for them.
That's where you have you visualize sometimes your own personal journey, like you think of the past, right now, or future, and you just start to drift into a different
Mm-hmm.
time, or imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It can go either. Usually, it starts with one thought. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
train of thought, and then you sort of drift into.
Those are basically our conversations on
Yeah,
this podcast.
basically, yeah. It's all a
started,
daydream.
we
Yeah.
start on one topic
And end up in a whole other dimension.
Yeah, so trains of thought. Oh
Trains
my
of
gosh,
thought,
that happens
right?
a lot.
Yeah. Side topic on that. I think daydreaming is really important. Actually, we don't practice this in our culture, but
Mm-hmm.
like I think Japan actually has like nap time. Of course
Mm-hmm.
they have a very like strict work. I wouldn't even call it ethic. Like they
Mm-hmm.
work long hours,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll also have sleep pods in
Mm-hmm.
offices where
Mm-hmm.
people will go through their brain function, and
Mm-hmm.
then they think they can get more work out of them.
I truly believe in that.
Yeah.
I truly believe in that. And there's, siestas too, is, during the day, a little nap, a little break during the day of just like take a little snooze.
Yeah.
I don't know why our culture does not embrace that, because when you're able to stop, relax, close your eyes for a bit, if you can cease the thinking, the mind chatter for a while, because when you're in it, mind chatter, 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 when you stop is when you allow all the processes, just like problems that you've been working on to kind of solve. We release resistance, things start to kind of just fall into place. It happens every time I'm sitting on the computer, I'm working all day long, and I'm like getting a lot of work done, blah, 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 blah. And then I will go take a shower. And then while I'm taking the shower, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, solutions to everything I've been working hard to try to figure out, just like pop into my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's super important to be able to go in and out of those kind of wavelengths. Yep. And it's not lazy. I'm really tired of people thinking that sleep equals lazy.
Yeah.
And that sleep or resting equals like either boredom or just like a negative. And there's such a negative connotation to something that's so incredibly important for
that stems from the Industrial Revolution, because just 100 ish years ago, when we went into the Industrial Revolution, there was no weekend. We worked children. It basically abducted people into legal slavery, which we now call work. We worked children, we worked people of all ages. 7 days a week in unhealthy environments, and then eventually blah 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 we had to fight for a weekend, a break from that.
That's really a thing.
That's true.
I did not know that.
It's interesting.
Wow.
You look back in American history, and the Industrial Revolution is really like, but we still never adapted to that. Yes, we won for our rights to have time off, a weekend, health benefits, healthy working environment, not working children under the age of whatever, we did all that, but we failed to adapt after that. Yeah. We really, in the last, I don't know, maybe 50, 60.
It's all about balance. Every single podcast I will talk about balance, because I think it's the most important thing right now in the world is balance. I think everything is pulling us in one direction or another, to one extreme or another.
Yeah, definitely.
And coming back to the middle is what's important.
The other thing, jumping back into that, was even being reprimanded in third grade about for daydreaming. I used to do it a lot. I'm very creative,
Right.
but it's so healthy.
Yes.
I mean,
It's a natural thing
it
for
is a
children to
natural thing
daydream.
for children, and I don't think still that I was an excessive daydreamer, but I do know and still find myself doing this when somebody's wah in front of you about something you really don't care about.
Right.
It's not hard to just drift off and think about something
Well,
else.
that's 99.9% of the world.
I know,
I swear
but it's
to
funny
God.
because that's that old paradigm of that being lazy or inefficient. And I experienced that right away in third grade, having a teacher tell me I was daydreaming too much. Well, I don't remember a damn thing, and I bet you whatever she was talking about wasn't important at all. It was probably math or something. But I had an experience real quick that, on, the other week where I found myself daydreaming. It's almost like ever since I was a kid, that was ingrained in me to not daydream. And I do, obviously.
Yeah, being introspective is...
It's extremely important. It's your everything. That's your perspective. Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, I found myself actually daydreaming, like positive daydreams, and not just thinking in my like beta brainwave format, right? And I started thinking about what I actually want in work and stuff like that.
Oh, that's right. That's when that happened.
And it birthed a really new idea for me. But then it really clashed when I came back into that work environment, like coming from that daydream state. Yeah, it was such like an eye opener, you know. I think it's really important to keep daydreaming and thinking about things you want, even if they don't seem realistic. It doesn't matter. Like when you stop dreaming, you become robotic.
You might as well start dying.
Yeah, right. You are basically. You're following only beta waves basically, and you become mechanical, biomechanical.
Drone.
Yeah. Do what you're told. Yeah.
Droid.
So.
Zoid.
Did you have anything else to add to that?
No,
I was going to ask you, and I think you kind of already said it, but have you solved... So you do feel like you've solved a lot of problems in dreams or just daydreaming?
Oh, daydreaming?
Yeah.
Yes.
Either of them.
I think it's the easiest way to solve problems without falling asleep.
Right.
Because I've solved problems while I was sleeping too.
Yeah.
When I was in college, it was one of the big things was, when I went to college, I was an adult. I had 3 children. I was going through a divorce. I was starting a business, working full time. It was freaking ridiculous. So I had no time for anything. And I would have an assignment that was due, and I was a procrastinator in the assignments, but it worked for me. It always worked for me. That's why I always hate people who are like, oh, don't be a procrastinator. I'm like, well, procrastination sometimes works, man. Like, you got something that everybody says is a vice. Figure out how to make it work for you. But the best things came out of me after I would be like, oh my gosh, I have this, and I would study and I'd look and I'd use so much of my left brain of research, study, understand, figure out the assignment, what do I need to do, and then I would go to sleep. And I would wake up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and it would all just spill out of me, and I'd have it done. It was like I'd collect all the data, my brain would figure out what it needed to do, and then when I woke up, I just laid it out on paper.
Yeah.
How many times have you woken up in the middle of the night and you have a notepad by your bed because you wake up with all these great ideas, especially when you're writing your books. Like you just wake up and you have all this amazing ideas or thoughts and it all comes out so perfectly in your brain when you just wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, recent research has showed that there's actually not as much of a divide between our right and left hemisphere as far as like
logic creativity
versus creativity as much as the old way we were taught. We still refer to it as that because it's easier to, but
because
recent studies have shown that it's more complicated than that. It's more interwoven. But there's definitely something to that.
Right.
I've always been that way and found it annoying where I wake up in the middle of the night like with these thoughts and solutions to whatever I'm working on.
Yeah. And I think creativity needs that balance, like when you were writing your books about the solitaire, which is a really metaphysical character, I would say,
Yeah.
in your books. And he, you needed to understand about like how radios work. And you would get so into this like researching and studying about the crystals and the, all that stuff. And you could see you turn into like I don't know, like a professor or something, where you're actually studying and then trying to like put the words out. But then you had to like step back, and then you could almost see you change, and then you turn into like this creative person, and then you just let it flow out in story format. But that was the balance, like collect information and then let it flow. And I think people do that when artists in general. I mean, didn't you have to learn how to shadow or shade things? I mean, there's some logical process to your art as well. You have to know how different mediums work on, how does acrylic work on the canvas?
Yeah.
How does the UV light reflect off of the paintings that you do?
Absolutely.
You need to know the hows, and then you allow your creativity to take that information and put it into an art form.
Yeah.
So
I've always hated where people like reduce it down to like sloppy like monkey splatter paint. Like
it's got to be a blend of both.
Sure, but it really there's a lot of logic to it as well. Yeah, I personally think the most beautiful art is a blend of both.
It has to be. That's the stuff that moves you.
Yeah, you look at famous artists. There's a lot, especially Leonardo. Like he had a lot of mathematics involved, like the symmetry of how he did things too. Lots of artists, of course, but
right.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just really interesting.
Yeah,
it really does require balance.
Right. It's that's such a beautiful dance to walk between. To be like, here's my logic, and now I'm gonna let it flow. Here's the order, and then the chaos.
Yeah.
The order and the chaos, and that beautiful swing. And I think that's why art is so important. And I would really hope for everybody to have some form of art in their life, or creation of some sort in their life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people are caught up with, I got to clean the house, I got to get groceries, I got to get my kids from soccer, I have to get this project done for work, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And they don't have a minute to just allow themselves to flow with creativity.
And those are usually the people that have psychological conditions or have to take medication and stuff like that a lot.
You mean that they're stressed?
Yeah, they're stressed.
Yeah, they're full of stress. They're depressed.
Yep.
They end up cheating on their wives. They end up like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they end up going through midlife crisis. I'm not saying that everybody who has
not
crisis.
everyone.
Yeah.
There's lots
but
of
it can cause so much damage in your life if you're not balancing and adding that it's kind of like a spiritual release also, to be able to connect to your creative side, or to allow creativity or spirit to flow through you into manifesting something. And zoning into that, not zoning out into a video game. I know that there's a meditative portion to that, but it also is very almost like addictive in the form of like you can meditate with hallucinogens or like psychedelics or something. But you also can do that with gaming, social media, TV, movies. And at that point, it's almost like you're allowing somebody else's creativity to capture you in.
Yeah.
And you're not the one that's producing the creativity.
Oh, that's hypnosis again.
Yes,
it is. A form of it.
It is.
Whether intentional or not, it is. It's another repetitive vibration, no matter what it is.
There has to be a difference, right? Between there. Like, you have to understand that there's a feeling of like vegging out. Just relaxing, letting go, and letting somebody else take the driver's seat.
Yep.
Like they're telling you the story, and you're zoning into it, right? And that's when you are, if the hypnosis, because you're very subjective to what they're trying to tell you, and even underlying.
Isn't it interesting that our routine in America for decades has been, work hard and then come home and turn on the news
zone out in front
and
of the
watch
TV and
crappy
news
TV
and TV,
show. Right?
And no wonder they have such a strong hold on our world today, and they're as powerful as they are is because they've addicted you to it, to that format. And they're also like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll tell you. Don't think for yourself. Don't create for yourself. We'll tell you what you need to think.
Right.
And it's
and most of the time you're in that state of mind where you are zoning out.
You are more
Isn't that
subjective to it.
Yep.
You are more what is the word? Is subjective? What's the word I'm trying to use? Vulnerable. Yeah, you're more vulnerable to being manipulated when you're in that zone. When you're stressed out and you worked all day and you're trying to relax and you want somebody else to do that for you. Yeah, so that's dangerous. And if you don't have that balance between that and then like also maybe just going into your room and crocheting or painting or candle making, or like there's so many different forms of art that you can have, even if it's just scribbling. Just if you can't draw, just scribble. Just take a pen and paper, markers, whatever, and just start coloring. That's why I'm creating those adult coloring books too, because even if you're not, you'll be filling in the lines, there's still something meditative about that and creative about it, because you're picking which color to put in the coloring book and things like that. And that's so important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And when you do that, you're actually putting yourself in your own meditative state, and you're releasing resistance and allowing good stuff to come through you, right? From like higher levels, instead of coming through a television set or social media or something like that.
So is that sort of the waking version of a lucid dream, where you're aware that you have some control, but you're still in a relaxed and open state?
Let's talk about lucid dreaming. What does that mean? Let's describe it for people.
An awareness. That's literally what a lucid dream is another state of awareness. Most of the time, most dream states are in control of you, so to speak, right? It's almost like your brain or whatever it is playing the movie for you.
Right.
And you experience it, but a lucid dream is almost as if you wake up in your dream and you realize that you can do what you want. And most people, at least for me, it's always turned into I can fly, or whatever. Lucid dreams are more rare. But
it's awareness that you're dreaming, and then your ability to take over the dream, even if it's just for a very small portion of it. And a lot of times people experience that, or you can teach yourself lucid dreaming. You know that. And so people experience that, especially those who have nightmares on a regular basis. They can teach themselves to kind of have a clue or know when you're dreaming. And especially when there's something chasing you or something like that happening, you can that emotion can be linked to like a trigger to tell your conscious mind that you're dreaming, which then you're able to then take over the dream for a moment and say, wait, I'm dreaming. And once you're aware of that, then you can say, oh, you're not, I'm terrified and you're a monster, but I'm dreaming, so you're not real. And then the monster goes away, which is kind of symbolic for everyday life too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, isn't that almost like when you reach that balance in your life, like you can actually sort of live as if your life is a lucid dream, a little more free of resistance and stress.
When you're aware of what's happening.
You're aware of what's happening and balancing between your normal beta and, alpha type brain waves. At will.
And I think you're right. I think most of the time people are just walking around and it's like they look like zombies. Like I said, like get up, go to work, go grab the groceries, get the kids, come home, make dinner, watch TV, drink wine, go to sleep, get up, go. That's what it's like. Like, I don't know how many people listening to this have experienced that, but please let us know below. We'd like to know. Even if you're not anymore like that, let us know if you were, if you know anyone like that, because it's like you're alive, but you're not living. That's why it's zombie-like. It's so weird.
It is.
And I wonder if they've designed it that way, right? Like, be in the stressed, fearful worker drone bee kind of state, and then at night we'll tell you what you need to know about the world and how you need to think. Wait, is that in your books?
Yeah.
Which book is
plug. I don't even remember now. I think the fourth one I talk about the
it's in
brain waves,
4D?
and I think so.
Your 4D book, which is called Life Eclipse.
Life Eclipse.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it talks about the possible intentional monotone or hypnotic rhythms in life that produce a drone-like state, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like the day you perform your functions in the beta brain waves, you engage with your electronic devices, which also change your brain chemistry and brain waves, and light coming into your retina, and then at night, you
Blue
go
light.
into all that. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So
what's another type of dream? So lucid dreaming is really fascinating. I think it's one of the things that I think, one of my favorite movies when I was little, like when I was like 7 or 8, was called Dreamscapes. And it was about a little boy who, I know that they hooked people up to each other, and then they could enter each other's dreams.
Didn't we buy that movie?
Yeah, I think we own it now, because I remember it made such an impact on me. I think it was one of the reasons why I told my mom I wanted to be a dream researcher, because of that movie. And, they would enter into each other's dreams and then be able to, and then they learned how to do it without the being hooked up or whatever.
Yeah.
Who's in that? Is that Dennis Quaid in there? I think that's...
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like somebody hijacks the evil guy, kind of hijacks the dreams.
Yeah.
And
that was pretty cool.
It is really good. And
then
they can enter the dreams of like the president or something like that, and manipulate them and cause nightmares. And
yeah.
It was a really good movie. And I remember that's when I first was like, ooh, I wonder if I could tell myself I'm dreaming and then wake myself up from a bad dream. And I started to be able to do that. And then I also started a dream journal, which I think is a really important thing if you're interested in learning more about yourself and learning more about your dreams. Taking that time to wake up in the morning, and not just, and that's part of the problem too, is that I was going to say earlier, like when I said you wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you become really creative and you write stuff down.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they go to sleep and then they have to wake up to an alarm, and then that alarm jolts their adrenaline, removing causing a block between what they were dreaming and reality. Yeah. So you're not having that nice, peaceful,
natural transition.
Slowly waking up thing, which is really important. And I always recommend to people to find a way to be able to wake up a little more slowly. And probably like the clock that you have now, rather than using your phone, because we like to try to turn our phones off at night. So we have an actual alarm clock that slowly like creates sunlight, and it'll start getting brighter and brighter, and then it'll play a really soft sound to help wake you up a little more slowly, so you're not jolted out of bed like those old alarm clocks.
Oh my God, yeah. I still get anxiety though, even though that's a little more slower, but just getting up in general on a different timeline than my body. I think most people have a problem with that. But then
when you wake up that way, then you can either write in your journal, or you can write down some creative thoughts that kind of pop into your mind as your mind is slowly coming out of its dream state or out of its sleeping state. That's so important, and I wish everybody were able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just keep track of those dreams. I think it can, some of them you'll notice are just some kind of like a subconscious, dump, but other ones are more significant, right? They might be trying to tell you something.
All right. False awakening.
Oh,
but
so
there's two different types. Some people say that's where you're actually sleepwalking, where you don't know that you're actually physically awake and moving around, or sleep paralysis sometimes is a false awakening. But then there's another term under the same term of false awakening that says that's sort of the inception type deal, where you're dreaming that you woke up, but you're still dreaming and you don't know when you're actually
That's what I would have considered false awakening to be.
So I found a few different versions of what a false awakening is, but I'm more interested in talking about the believing you've woken up type thing.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how many times I've had that.
Yeah,
where I was
all the time. Me too.
I woke up, I got dressed, I took a shower, got dressed, ate breakfast, was ready to go, and then all of a sudden I wake up. And I'm like, wait, I already did this.
Yeah. All the time. I have those a lot. And it's always regarding routine, it seems like. Like
Sometimes.
I'm already awake and I'm trying to go to the bathroom and I'm late for work.
Is it? Yeah.
Those are reoccurring.
But sometimes I think that could just be our subconscious mind preparing us for what we're about to do.
Right.
And sometimes, that's important because if you run through scenarios in your mind before you do them, it makes it easier to do. It's kind of like if you were to map out where you're going to go before you go there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that your brain automatically does.
Now, I find those really annoying, especially when I don't want to think.
It's like I already did this.
I'm dreaming about work again. Like I already know. Like dream about something else. But I have had some really interesting dreams where it is more Inception-like, where I'm sure I've woken up, but I'm in a different reality, and those are more interesting. You know, I can't think of anything specific, but I think a lot of people have those false awakening dreams.
Yeah. Well, I think that part, that's usually as you're coming out of your dream. So you're in the in-between state, which I think is the most interesting state to be in. Like as you're about to fall asleep and as you're about to wake up. What are those brainwave states? Is that theta?
Theta is usually the in-between states.
That's the most magical place because I feel like it's the line between conscious and unconscious and the line between the physical and non-physical world. And that's where I feel like those are the times where you can actually maybe be able to talk to maybe somebody who's crossed over or even somebody who's living, have a conversation. I think you get more insight, intuition in those times where you, and answers to problems in those moments too, that you'll be able to remember. I think those are important times. And that's why another reason why I wish people could wake up a little more slowly, because I think that's such an important state to move into. Before actually regaining full consciousness. I mean, anybody who's gone through hypnosis or have done hypnosis, you know that when you're coming out of that state is so important. You can't just jolt somebody out of hypnosis. It's shocking to their system and to their brain. So you want to be able to make sure you're saying, okay, now I'm going to count back from, whatever number.
Yeah.
And as you're counting back, you say, like now you can feel the room startly coming into focus. You can feel that you're sitting on the couch, blah, blah, blah. Those are important pieces to kind of like bring you back into consciousness. And people just ignore that when they're waking up.
Yeah.
And it's really important to do that. But those are the times where I've had some scary dreams, though.
I was just going to say, the next one is nightmares.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that there are times where I've heard, let's see. So I had met somebody out for coffee, a friend of mine, I think her name was Kristen, and we were talking about like her dad and how he's made a difference in her life, and then how he passed away a couple of years ago. And then the next morning, she didn't say, a lot more than that. And the next morning, as I was waking up, all of a sudden, this man I'm still in the dream state, but starting to wake up. This man comes up to me and he puts out his hand and shakes my hand and he says, "Hi, my name is Joe." And I knew immediately that was her father, but I never knew his name. And I sent her a text when I woke up. I was like, "Was your dad's name Joe?" And she was like, "Yes." And so it's weird things like that. Like, and it just didn't mean anything. I mean, maybe it meant something to her, but it was not like he gave me like, the gold is buried in the backyard or something. It wasn't message. Right. It wasn't anything major. But it seems like there's some sort of cross between that, the line is crossed there. Like you're able to actually tap into something. And then the other dream that I've had, scary dreams. Ugh, I hate thinking about these. But I remember one was, and I haven't had scary dreams like this for a long time. But it was something was in the room with me and I could feel it. and it was as if I was awake already. And it reached down and grabbed my arm and pulled me into the upper corner of the room.
Ooh.
Oh, it was so scary.
Yeah.
It was so creepy. And when I woke up, I could feel my arm like as if I had been pulled, you know, because I was jolted awake then at that point. Oh, yeah, I saged the hell out of my room. And
Nightmares
I was like, I don't know what's going to cause to fix this, but I don't want that around me.
Yeah, those are the ones that you're glad to wake up from,
right?
You know, or fully detach from. I've experienced the old hag, or which
tell me
is
about
almost
that. It's funny that other people have had that same.
Yeah, it's a common thing, and I saw a picture in what I was just reading. It looked exactly like what I saw too. Like
tell me about that
creepy old like vampire looking.
So what happened? Tell me what happened.
It's just that it's almost borderline sleep paralysis, where you feel a weight on your chest.
You are sleeping. Are you waking up?
You're basically in that in between state.
Okay.
But instead of being relaxed, you're having a nightmare hallucination. So you wake up, you're like, suddenly you can't breathe. You feel a weight on your chest, or like something sitting on you. And now I've had that without seeing things, but usually what they call the old hag is waking up and seeing like a hallucination of a woman or creature sitting on you.
Oh my God.
And I had that. I saw that as if there was like this creepy vampire
like a dark
looking.
Oh, it was? You saw a face?
Yeah, she had like a shriveled up mouth, like it didn't even look like a human mouth.
God.
With like teeth sticking out of it, and it scared the crap out of me.
Oh my God.
And that just felt really real because I was in between. Like
Now, is that related to like a banshee?
Could be. Well, banshees are usually like, I think, Irish in their origin, screeching. They usually come at night. They say that's related to the death of a loved one or whatever. So I don't know if that's the same thing exactly. Okay. But
old hag.
The old hag is very closely related to sleep paralysis.
Do they have any like stories around what that means?
Yeah, it goes way back. That's the thing. It's a human experience that for thousands of years. Like I don't know if it's biblical, but I know for long time ago, like centuries ago, people would experience it and say that it was a demon or
doing
a succubus, like sucking your energy out, basically. Yeah, and it's creepy. Yeah, it's really creepy.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, I know.
Right. Oh, and it's funny because there's different places that like you can feel, like different houses you've been in, different apartments or whatever, different like that you can just feel an energy of like creepiness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's like how do you step out of not being able to have these kind of terrifying nightmares and stuff? And also like what role does hormones play in that? Because when you're pregnant, you get nightmares like crazy. When I'm going, I
just read that there's certain people more prone to having either nightmares or very vivid dreams, and pregnancy was one of them.
Pregnancy, and then also like when you're going through your cycle, like gosh, yeah, like when you're hormonal, it just kind of increases this nightmare kind of state of mind and emotional. Like your dreams feel more emotional, and that's probably why they're more vivid, because you feel it so much more what's happening in your dream.
So
yeah.
Do you have anything else to add on that?
I'm just trying to think of other dreams like that I had. Or like especially as I was in the in-between state. I think that was when I saw Norm Macdonald. I think he was. Was that while I was waking up?
Yeah. Well, at least
it was a little deeper.
Remember the morning, and
it was a little deeper. So, because I don't remember the details of what he said or anything. It was definitely more of a deeper thing.
We'll definitely circle back to prophetic dreams and stuff like that. That's another thing I'm very interested in. That's why I'm waiting for the end. Well, reoccurring dreams.
Let's talk about reoccurring dreams now. I think that one's super important.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I think that's what started this conversation, but reoccurring dreams usually are telling you something. Mine have always been very enigmatic though. Like sometimes they clearly are telling you, you know, about a situation, you know, but mine have usually been ones I can't pinpoint.
They're always encrypted and symbolic.
Yeah.
There's so much symbolism through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I pull out the dream book. The only dream interpretation tool that I've ever used that I found to be incredibly vast and accurate is dreammoods.com. So we'll put a link to that in the description too. Dreammoods.com. So let's talk about like last night. Well, tell me about tell the audience about the reoccurring dream that you've been having lately.
Well, the setting is always different, right?
Usually.
But in general, I'm always waiting or wandering. Both. Like I'm always never getting to a destination or having a full experience. It's always like, here I am. Last night's was a gas station. You know, I walked into this gas station and I'm like, I was just here. Like I just bought all these things and now I'm buying them again. Like what happened to those things I just bought?
Right.
And then I kept losing my place in line. But I wasn't upset about it.
Right.
I was just like, well, I guess I'm here at this gas station forever.
You're patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it was a little bit annoying.
A little bit annoying, yeah. Like, of all things, you want to dream about other things. But these reoccurring dreams for me lately have been all about waiting and being kind of stuck somewhere. And I'm always walking around to different rooms, different parts of wherever I'm at.
Right.
And they're not wonderful journeying experiences. They're always like, here I am.
Is something coming?
What's going
on?
Waiting
for your phone to load.
Right. Yeah.
So when we looked up waiting on dreammoods.com, and it said to dream that you're waiting is indicative of issues of power and control and feelings of dependence and independence, especially in a relationship. Now, that's funny because I don't think that that's what's happening at all. But it's definitely, especially since it took place in like a gas station or a lot of the other places that it took place in, speaks to more of something around your career or like, you know, waiting to see if we can find land and build a house and things like that. But it says, consider how you feel in the dream while you were waiting.
Right.
So if you are patient, which you were, then you know things will happen at their own pace. If you're impatient, then it means that you're being too demanding or that your expectations are too high. So, I mean, that one's not a real detailed explanation, obviously. Usually they go into some deeper ones. But the gas station was explaining about how maybe the reoccurring dreams are usually your subconscious trying to tell you something that you're not getting during the day. Like it knows that you need something, but you're not paying attention. So it'll just keep repeating it to you in a dream. I used to have the elevator falling dream.
Ugh, yeah.
Right? Which means different things to different people. You always have to consider how you feel while you're in that dream. And to me, it was always this like out of control feeling. But I knew, because I would remember, I was lucid. I would come into my dream, I would walk into the elevator and I'd be like, oh, I'm dreaming again. Because I've done it so many times. And I was like, oh, here we go. The elevator's going to fall again. And it's going to crumble to the ground and everybody's just going to walk out or walk around it like, hey, nothing happened. And I'm going to be sitting there like, excuse me, this elevator just crashed. This is a big deal. And everybody's like, it's not a big deal. And I mean, I won't get into what was happening in my life then, but it reoccurred for years and years until I finally was like, oh, I have to do this.
Yeah.
This is important in my life.
Yeah.
And I made a significant change in my life and it stopped.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're definitely, do you feel like they're messages, like reoccurring dreams? Most of the time, they're messages of some kind.
I don't see it, and I don't think they're from like your spirit guides or God or anything. I don't think that that's related to that. I do think it's just your subconscious mind that knows what, like you've asked a question and it's trying to give you the answer.
Yeah.
And you're not, but you're just too busy to really, to hear it.
Yeah.
Or you've been ignoring it. Yeah. I mean, think about how many times have people had dreams about school I'm freaking 47 years old, and I still sometimes have dreams about
Me
school,
too.
and it's always like I can't get to my class on time, and I don't know where my schedule is.
Yeah, me too.
I can't
I
figure
still
out where
have that dream.
I have to get to my locker,
Yep.
and I don't know what my next class is, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna get in trouble because I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah, I still have that exact dream. Isn't that strange?
Yeah, look that up on dreammoods.com.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see how that relates
See,
to your life.
these things are so interesting to me, not only when you have your own interpretations, but when you have similar dreams to all of human culture.
Right.
Like, no matter where you live or
Right.
who you are, there's reoccurring dreams in human nature, too.
Things like your teeth falling out.
Yes, that's one.
That's something to look up. That actually means something. And when you have, that's why it's like, oh, but different things mean different things to different people. Yeah, but it can be it's the symbology.
Symbolism.
The symbology of it is it's crazy because it means the same thing to each person.
Yep.
So teeth falling out means something.
Anxiety, stress, or starting new phases in life, identity.
Oh, you wrote that one down literally?
Yes.
What does it mean? Say it again.
It's usually all of these things, anxiety and stress in your outside life, but also starting new phases in life and identity.
I've had having to go to the bathroom and cannot find either find a bathroom or find a private bathroom. That was one for a very long time.
Me too.
And that was when I felt like I needed more alone time. And it's a feeling of privacy and feeling like people are in your business and all that sort of stuff. So I would love to hear anybody's reoccurring dreams. Please write them down, and maybe we can have a discussion in the comment section about it.
Yeah, definitely. Man, there's so many. But I wrote down teeth because I had those recently again. And it's
Did you?
I know exactly what that means because I know a lot of people that have talked about their teeth dreams, you know, and looked that up. But yeah,
that is so interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
What other kind of dreams are there?
Well, healing dreams.
Oh, tell me about what that means.
People, another common dream apparently. I feel like I've had these too. Is where you just you might not remember the details, but you wake up with a sense of renewal and purpose, or enlightenment. I think I had one of those maybe in 2020 or last year, where like we were coming out of all the stuff me and you experienced, and it just felt different. I think you did too, and we both experienced
the dream
that
I had that night when I dreamt that my tumor was really small.
Yeah.
And it was really big at the time, but I dreamt that me and you were feeling on my belly again, and it was like, oh, that tumor is so small, look, you can barely feel it. And then I woke up and I'm like, it felt so real. It was such a real dream. And then it was like from that point forward that the tumor actually started to shrink. So I don't know. Oh, remember the dream I had when the whole cancer came on, and the dream about the guardian angel?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I had this incredibly detailed storyline dream where I was like, I woke up in the dream. I was in the dream, and I woke up and I'm flying through a nighttime sky. I'm holding on to this man who's flying through the sky, and I'm holding on to him. And then we land in this like military complex sort of thing, and he's running in, and I'm supposed to run with him. And I'm like, I can't run. I have cancer. And he's like, you do? He's like, oh, and he comes over, and then he puts his hand on me and like helps, like carries me into this facility. And then, like, there's this whole thing of, like, putting me into this bed, and people were like, oh, that's a med bed. And I'm like, oh, it had Mickey Mouse sheets on it. I don't know what that means. But I was sit down and had a conversation with him, and his name was it Blaine?
Blaine.
His name was Blaine. And he was like, yeah, I'm assigned to you as your guardian angel through this process. And I was like, oh, okay. And you were there, and Crystal was there, and it was just this really detailed, I can see it like it was real. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, healing dreams, I feel like they say that's a common dream, but I don't feel like I've had them too often. But I have had them periodically.
Yeah, there are sometimes it's so interesting how you can wake up, you can go to bed and be feeling have a really bad day, and when you wake up the next morning, you can feel incredibly renewed and re-energized. And it's not just because you slept, it's like something energetically has changed.
Yeah.
Like there's shifts that happen. It's almost like a timeline can shift 50 billion times while you're sleeping or something, and you can land on the right timeline or something that just that you desired.
So vivid dreams, I feel like people they categorize that as a different thing, but
is that storyline dream? Would you say it's the same?
No,
That's something
I don't
different?
think it is. There is that's a different term as a storyline, or they called it an epic dream, where it's like a series of stories that all kind of fit together. I've had some of those too. They're almost reoccurring, but they do have a linear progression.
Right.
I've had some of those. I can't think offhand of details, but
those are the ones that are so interesting, because I feel like there have been several dreams that I've had with you in it, where we have kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you've dreamt that a lot.
And it's vivid. It's vivid, and it's a storyline, and it's incredibly crazy. Like, you lost your job, and 3 daughters were or 3 kids, I don't know if they were daughters, were jumping on your back, and you picked up pizza. Like, it was just this normal day. I came home from work, and I can see the counter where the pizza was sitting, and you were super excited, and the kids were all happy, and it was just like this. It's so weird. That one, you're pushing a stroller in another one. I dream about us having kids a lot.
Yeah.
Even though we never will.
So they say epic dreams, or what'd you call them? Series dreams or storyline dreams. Usually are emotionally charged, and they can change your perspective or last a long time in your lifetime, where they actually influence your life. I don't know if you feel that way about those dreams, but that's commonly linked according to studies that have been done, on people and dreaming. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's also scary, because if they can learn how to hijack your dreams, just like the Dreamscape thing, think about like all the technology out there now where they can actually shoot different sounds or different wavelengths and stuff in order to control people.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. That's kind of scary to think that at some point they could maybe, while people are sleeping, project some certain images or something, and then be able to influence you way more than just like the subliminal messaging inside of commercials and stuff, or TV shows, which they have.
Yeah.
There's patents for that.
Right.
They could have it for your dreams too.
Right. Well, we're playing around with, like the monkey that was sucking on a straw, and it created electromagnetic current, where they allegedly projected an image from his brain. I don't know if you remember that a few years ago, but who's to say that if they can extract images, they can't put images in, like you're saying, So it's not completely sci-fi anymore.
Oh, that's not just the monkey. They actually have that now. I think we actually posted something in our Facebook group about that.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah, where they can hook you up, and they can see what you're thinking.
Yeah.
It shows up very vaguely, but it's on a screen, an image of what you're thinking about.
That's really, I don't know what to say about that.
But that's cool for dream research too, because if you can do that while someone's dreaming, you can see what they're dreaming while they're dreaming. So you don't have to wait till they wake up and they're in a conscious state to try to remember and explain it to you.
Right.
When you can actually visually see what they're experiencing while they're experiencing it, and then also see how their brainwaves are working during that exact moment.
Yeah.
And how their body's responding during that moment, if it is at all. That's why I'm fascinated by that. In my next lifetime, I'm coming back as a dream researcher.
So I think we kind of covered these a little bit, but like cathartic dreams, which are like cleansing of inner fears, usually experienced during stress, or if you have a particular person or situation you feel that's controlling.
Tell me, what does that mean? Like you conquer it in your dream?
Like you release it or conquer it in some way, where you...
A fear?
Yeah, where you become a hero, or you... Whatever, I don't know. That's listed under some other subcategories, but I don't know if I've really had those necessarily.
Huh. It just seems like another problem-solving dream.
Right. That's why I said we kind of covered that a little bit.
What about the dreams where you're like trying to run and you
Oh,
can't
geez.
move?
Yeah.
Or you're trying to punch someone, but they're like jello.
Yeah.
You can't get through.
Yeah.
Oh,
All the time. I just had one recently where I
Did you?
finally did punch someone and it felt so good. I'm like, oh my God. That's got to be the first time I actually hit someone
You
in a
did?
dream. Yeah.
Oh.
It felt good. It was a release. Isn't that
Wow,
weird? Because,
yeah.
most of the time it's just like, you move slow, or they just are
Or you
always...
try to yell.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a reoccurring dream I always have. Somebody is trying to hurt me and I can't dial the phone. I'm trying to dial 911 or dial you, and I can't dial the phone.
See, I think those are
right.
more collective dreams where we all experience things like that. I
So
always
annoying.
have the phone texts out something, and I'm like, I need help, and it's just like 529 Zelp, it'll like throw it, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Can't get through.
Or all of a sudden, like, your name won't come up in my list, or I don't know, just annoying.
So annoying.
Those are, to me,
But
those are
they mean something.
Right.
They actually mean something. Like, you're not having a voice, or you're not feeling powerful in your life, or you feel like you can't escape something. Those are really important things to pay attention to, because you have to figure out how that relates. And like I said, when I always talk about when I say, how did your dream feel, and like you get annoyed with me, my clients always got annoyed with me. How did it feel though? But how did it feel also is like, so then how do you relate that? When have you had that same feeling in your real life? And so that's how I helped people connect your dream, what your dream's trying to tell you, to what area of life is actually happening. So if you're dreaming about apples and they keep going rotten, okay, well there's symbolism in that. I can't get over that word. There's symbolism in that, but then also you think about, okay, how did you feel when those apples went rotten? And you'll say, I felt really sad and helpless. Okay, where have you recently in your life felt sad and hopeless? And you can say, well, it was when I tried to complete this project at work and it didn't go through. And then you know, okay, that's probably related because it has the same vibration. So that's probably where that dream is trying to explain. So, Dream Moods was saying like about your impatience with in a relationship, but our relationship is solid, right?
Yeah.
So where else are you feeling impatience? And you're impatient everywhere else but your relationship, So like where have you felt that feeling? And then you're like, oh,
everywhere.
With my job, with the land, with waiting on people to get back to us, and blah blah blah.
Constantly, yeah. Absolutely. This one I don't know. Past life dreams.
Past life. See, it's funny because I tend to think that beyond the veil, beyond time, there is no past, right? So when you move up in dimensions, you're removing yourself from time, or at least time in the linear sense that we know it. Mm-hmm. So there really isn't a past, present, and future.
Right.
It's maybe, I always tend to think it's more like a parallel life.
Yeah. I don't think, and some people have experienced this. Let us know if you've had, because I'm really intrigued by that. Because when I was reading about past life dreams, I'm like, how would you know? Because when you're in a dream state, no matter what, you lose your sense of time for the most part.
But sometimes I've dreamt where I was wearing certain like Victorian
That's what I want to
clothing,
know.
And okay, this was definitely Renaissance.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, because I at least can't remember any dreams where I felt like I was in a different time period. For me. But I definitely have had multiple dreams for years where I'm definitely on a different timeline.
Yeah.
So it usually involves people that I've already known or feel familiar, and either in the future, which I'm saving the best for last, prophetic dreams, but either that I will meet in the future, or that energy matches, or it's somebody I've already known, and it seems so vivid that it just seems like a different timeline altogether or something. And I know we both had those with each other and stuff too.
Well, that's why a lot of the dreams with me and you, they could feel like they're past lives, but there's certain things like, I don't know, like how many of those how could those all be past lives when
Right.
a lot of them had like modern day things
Right.
like cars and
Yeah.
like cell phones or
So,
pizza or
that's
whatever.
exactly my
Like,
point.
we didn't have pizza
Sorry.
back in the 1700s, did we? 1600s?
That's a good question.
1500s, 1200s, 1000.
I don't know how old pizza is.
I don't know how old pizza is. Now we're gonna
I
get
should
back
know
on
that as a
that
pizza
Italy,
lover.
what we want for dinner train of thought again.
So, have
Yeah.
you had a dream where you were wearing a Victorian dress, or where you
Mm-hmm.
knew that you were in a different time period?
Mm-hmm.
You have.
Yeah, it was with an old friend of mine in the dream, and I remember I was wearing like a velvety green dress, the kind that like comes up like a turtlenecky dress,
Mhm.
with a hat, and we were in there were dirt roads.
Wow.
And he was like in a suit thing, and he got shot. And I even kind of remember my name. Like, I remember the feeling of my name was like Elizabeth or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And he got shot, and I remember it being very like devastating or whatever. And then I woke up from that dream.
Wow.
But,
that wasn't the cobblestone building right next door.
Oh God, that was a different one. Yeah, that one I also, but that felt like it was a different country. I don't know if it was a different time frame, but it was definitely
different country.
Oh God, yeah, that
I
one
remember
was.
you describing that.
We were in a little
yeah.
shop, and then we came out of the shop. Like, if we ever went to that place, I feel like I would be like,
you would know.
I would be like, oh, this is deja vu.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of deja vu is dreams that you don't remember.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I feel like I've been here before. I feel like I've seen this before. And I think that that's just dreams that you have, that you had, and they're set in your mind and I think that falls in line with what we want to talk about next, is like the premonition.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's like a little sneak peek into your future, which isn't hard to do because all time exists all time. So I think it's pretty common to be able to have prophetic dreams, and because nobody remembers their dreams, or very little people remember very small amount of people remember their dreams on a regular basis, daily basis, right? That's why, again, have a dream journal. That would be helpful.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to lose track of this, but the dream journal, I used to just journal, right, for years. And I picked up a few of them like just a few years ago, and went through some of the stuff. And
like the ones that you had written down, you're saying?
Yes,
oh,
and
okay.
I found dreams from the 90s that I now know without a shadow of a doubt predicted or were premonition dreams of future events for sure.
Oh, that's really cool.
And this might have been just before we met, because I feel like it was 17 or 18. But either way, I went back and read, and I was like, I am describing, I get chills. Like my friend, old friend Jesse, like I described a dream where we were blah, 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 walking on railroad tracks, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it was a dream that 3 years later, it described where we went, where we hung out in the same time period.
Wow.
3 years later.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and also I think you can reach a lot of this dream state stuff when you do, meditation, transcendental meditation too. So I think that's easier to remember then. Years ago, before I met you, remember, I used to actually record. I would meditate a lot, and I would record.
Oh, yeah.
I'd set the recorder so that while I was in that in-between state, I could actually talk out loud of what I was dreaming. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like Casey did that, right?
Yeah, Edgar Casey.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah. And so I recorded what I was seeing, and I went into the dream without any, I didn't have a purpose. I just wanted to, or the meditation, whatever, same thing. I went into it without a purpose. I wasn't trying to solve a problem or figure something out. I just wanted to meditate, and allowed anything to come into my mind that came into my mind. And I saw a man standing against a building with his foot up, and he had his hair kind of like up and gelled. I remember telling you about this, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. and he was leaning, he had his arms crossed, and he had his foot up against this wall. And then I got out of, he was waiting for me, and we were going to go into this building. It was like a gala or something, right? It was something like an art event or something. And I got out of the car, and I was dressed kind of eloquently. And he he had glasses on, these sunglasses on, like the white brimmed sunglasses, like old from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes and he greets me, and we go into the gala. And I'm like, and his name, I kept saying as I was speaking out loud, I was like, his name is like something with a J. It was like Jim or Jeff, like a James or J. Like I kept saying like it's a J, like, but I didn't know what it was
crazy.
exactly. And then it had to have been within a month when I met you. And I didn't even think of it then. I thought of it later on when we were actually out on our trip in California, and you were standing against that building.
Arizona.
And then I wasn't dressed up or anything.
Yeah.
But you were waiting for me, and I came out of the bathroom, and then we walked into the building. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was standing against the wall doing that same thing.
And it's funny because you're an artist, so there might have been some symbolism there.
Yeah.
That we were going into an art gallery or whatever. But you also own glass. They're not white, but you own green glasses, just like that.
Yeah.
The first picture I ever saw of you was you standing against the building. You didn't have your foot up like that, but you had your arms crossed, sunglasses on, and your hair gelled. So yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it?
So that seems very prophetic.
Yeah.
And I think you can hit more propheticness, if you want to call that, if you do meditation, more than just dreaming, because you won't remember half of it.
Yeah, I agree.
So the first time I think I ever had a prophetic dream was when I think I was going through my first relationship with my daughter's father when I was very young. And I dreamt that I was standing in the living room, and my mom was there, and we were packing all my stuff, and I was leaving him. And at the time, I didn't think that was a possible thing. But then, like, weeks later, things went down, and I actually and I stood in the living room, and that's when I was like, oh, this feels like deja vu. And then I was like, because it was a dream that I had.
Yeah.
I actually lived this moment before in my dream.
Yeah.
And that's why it felt like deja vu.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting.
And it's interesting when it's things that are really impactful in your life.
Yeah.
But it's weird when it's like, how many deja vus are just like, I'm sitting here and I just opened a new tab and I lived this moment before with a bird chirping.
Right.
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Nothing. It means nothing.
Right.
Some things mean nothing, people.
Yeah.
Not everything is a sign.
No, right. I don't think people like to hear that.
No, because prophetic doesn't always mean don't get on the plane.
No,
sometimes
right.
It just means it's what do you call it when ghosts just leave back an energy behind?
Residual energy.
Yeah, it's a residual energy but residual from the future.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
It's just a timeline or time anomaly, I think, that happens in your energy field. And so you relive it, or you knew you were going to live it.
I always wonder, because I feel like the one that really got my attention, which you know the story already, but was, 99, where I had a dream about, being in a living room, somebody like turning to me and saying, hey, you dated so-and-so, right?
That's right.
And it was a meaningless dream that I didn't remember until like a few days later. I was in this living room and in the exact position, and this kid that I didn't know turned to me and said, hey, you dated so-and-so. And in
that moment you were like, shit, I just dreamt this. I had
chills up my spine. Like I felt like I left my body for a second. I'm like, that's the one that really grabbed me and said, what is reality? Because that was very specific, very detailed. I knew I dreamt it, and it just happened, and that scared me. But that woke me up to like, okay, there's something else with time or being psychic or whatever I didn't know, right? Right. But that in and of itself didn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
The moment didn't mean anything. The subject matter didn't mean anything.
Right.
But the moment of awakening of some sort is
Right.
what was important.
Yeah, see, people read too deeply into things sometimes.
Right.
Either they don't read at all or they read too deeply into it. And what am I going to say again? Balance. Balance
Yeah.
is the key. Like, find that balance, because somebody could have read into that and been like, oh, that means you're supposed to connect with that ex-girlfriend again, and you're supposed to, and maybe you're supposed to be together, and maybe you're blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And like, oh, God.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean all that.
No.
It could just be yourself telling yourself, hey, it's time to ask more questions.
Right.
Be more aware.
Yeah.
Raise your consciousness a little bit.
Yep.
That's all it could be.
And it's funny.
I think a lot of times signs are just, hey, look, there's more to reality than what you think it is.
Right.
Stay awake.
The very term of signs, is that, like, they're supposed to get your attention.
Yes! Oh my God. I didn't even think of the actual definition of the word sign. It's just something to grab your attention.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean go in this direction.
Right.
Some signs do tell you what direction to go to. Other ones tell you to stop, and other ones are just like, hey, this is a place of, peace and quiet.
Right.
Like, it's just informative, right?
Right. Yeah. There's different types of signs. Just to say stop doesn't mean that you stay there and don't ever move again.
Right.
It's just like pause, take a moment, look around.
Right. And that's the same thing for our dreams. A lot of them are just different signs, but it doesn't mean you're supposed to like divorce your husband and go marry that person that was in your dream last night. Like, nope, that doesn't always mean that. That could just mean, there could mean a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one I wanted to bring up, I know we've been talking for a while here, but collective dreams, where multiple people experience the same one.
Oh,
Have you ever had that happen?
Well, we've had that happen.
Yeah.
I haven't really had that with anybody else. I know you've mentioned that you had it before with, when were we talking about dreams? Was that in our alien?
Yeah, we brought it up in the
podcast?
alien dream because that was one of them where my whole family had a alien dream in the same night
that's
in
where
the
we were.
90s,
That was last week's podcast. Yeah. Okay.
But I also mentioned before, like, a friend in high school where we both seemed to have the same dream, and then another one I forgot about was between me and my sister in the haunted Victorian house where I started talking about it.
Was it a real house or
no? It's a reoccurring dream. /nightmare.
A reoccurring dream nightmare that you and your sister have collectively had
together,
at the same time, or
I don't know, because all my life I've always, and now ever since then, now I don't have it anymore. That's the weird thing.
Since you talked about it, or
yeah, pretty much. So I always had this dream about this Victorian house that looked a specific way, and that you would walk in, see the stairwell was very detailed. And the higher you would go in the house, the more repressive it would feel and just scary, like absolute terror. It was just very creepy. And like, you can't even describe the level of like fear, like something was watching you at all angles,
Oh, yuck.
And
don't like
I tried describing it to her, and her eyes got huge, and she was like, I have had the same reoccurring dream.
Oh my God.
For years too.
Wow.
But she wouldn't have known that unless I had brought it up. But the whole day I was just so weirded out. Like, what does that mean? Like, how did we describe the same exact details?
Like, that's one where you think, like, maybe that was a past life,
right?
Or parallel life, or whatever,
right? That
you both have lived, and you had that experience, and that carried over into this reality.
Now here's my mind trying to debunk or like think my way through things, like I do, right? Open-minded skeptic, Immediately I was like, well, houses or attics usually represent like hidden things or the subconscious, just like a basement does. Either direction. A house
basement means something different usually, I think.
Yeah, well, either way, like houses represent, the body or yourself, the aspect of self and stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe we just had again, that was just a similar collective dream that people have, not necessarily the same dream, but it wasn't until we described everything the same exact way, how everything looked, how everything felt, the reoccurring nature of it. And that's what was like, I don't think that's...
Did you draw it?
No, but I can see it in my mind's eye right now.
Then you could probably be able to draw it. There's a whole bunch of times where I'm like, oh, I wish I could draw because I could draw it for you.
Yeah, it just...
Yeah,
I don't know what that is, but yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think people who are tied together can do that a lot easier. But even there's that one guy that we can never remember his name who did all that research on the electromagnetic field, and he talks about how there's been studies done about when the EMF of the world is quieter, like it's not so high, or something like that, that then people who are in the vicinity of each other sleeping can share dreams.
Right.
Like literally be in each other's dreams, like Dreamscape.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. And I think there are a few times where me and you have had similar dreams, but they weren't exact.
Right.
Like we were dreaming about a house once, and you were like, "Oh yeah, it's on a corner." I'm like, "Yeah, it was on the corner," and then it was
we
like
were building a house.
But your experience in that house, in that dream, was different than mine. Mine was there was a garden, and there was these people. Mine was way more like I had this whole other storyline. You were there, but it's funny. You were doing your own thing. That was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder if a lot of people have that, but because they don't remember dreams. Or one partner,
think that's it,
one partner remembers, the other person doesn't remember.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. I think that if our world becomes more self-sufficient, and we were going to talk about AI today, but now we decided to do dreams. But what if robots can actually help us and not hurt us, and they can do all these remedial jobs, and we have enough food, and we have enough. If we're in a state of abundance in our world, and we're able to just live our life, right, without having to be slaves to the man, what would we do? What would humanity do? Like I always think about that, like. If you had more time, if you had time, money, and no obligation, what would you do with your life?
Yeah.
What would be the thing? Like, would you get bored? Because when people retire, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, it's such a hard thing. When I was working with retirees, it was just like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what to do with myself. My hands. I don't know what to do.
That's unreal.
Because their whole identity is so wrapped up around working, and which is a shame. It's not a bad idea to have like a purpose, but it's different when it becomes who you are. It's very different. But what would we do in that time? Would we be bored? Would we be would we commit crimes because we don't have, idle hands are the devil's workshop? Like what would we? God. I'm just saying, like what? Funny quote. What would we do? What would we do? And I think like, how cool would it be is if we would actually study, learn about ourselves more, become more introspective, learn meditation, understand our brain waves, look more into our dreams, become more psychic, and psychic by meaning being able to talk to each other without verbal communication, and through other wavelengths of energy, right? Radio waves or whatever waves.
I feel like that's the path me and you are on, as much as possible.
Yeah.
Which is why we do this podcast,
Yeah. You know what I'd love to do? A live podcast, and then I would love to hold up, do a psychic experiment with the people on the podcast, where we're holding up, like, we're looking at a yellow star or whatever, and then have people guess, and then hold it up and answer it. That would actually be kind of fun.
That would be really cool.
We should do that. If you guys want us to do that, let us know.
Yeah.
Comment below.
Yeah, please.
Like, subscribe, and share, and comment below. All of those things help us out. You don't even have to give us a penny, although if you wanted to, we have a donation page on our website, deepspeakpodcast.com. But just liking, subscribing, and sharing helps us out immensely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are there any other types of dreams that we missed?
I don't know. Maybe the listener can let us know. I'm sure there's something. I think we covered the basics of like common dreams and a few less common things.
Do you think premonition dreams could at all ever be God speaking to you, or your angels, guidance, loved ones that have crossed over, guiding you?
I think but I don't think it's absolute.
Because I don't think that they would want to interfere with the progress, right? Of our timeline of our timeline.
I feel like, right, I feel like the whole premise of this whole life is for us to learn on our own. Mm-hmm. So that's why everything's so hands off. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
It's not that it's not there. It's just I feel like that's why a perception of God or aliens or angels, whatever, all of these things are very hands-off and hypothetical, usually.
You can't prove them.
You can't prove them.
But you can't unprove
them. You can't completely disprove them.
Right.
Yeah. And, but I personally think the reason for that is so we learn on our own. We can't constantly have the teacher hovering over us and interfering while we take a test.
That's a good thought.
Yeah.
Although I don't think life is a test.
I don't know. I don't think test is the right word. I'm just trying to use subject as a...
It's school, though. School doesn't have to be scary or rigid. It's learning. You're either learning and growing or you're dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't rule it out. Mm-hmm. I don't personally think that that's the case usually. Mm-hmm. But I do think it can happen.
What about the idea that it's retrocausality? That you're sending yourself a message from the future.
I definitely think that's a possibility too, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's almost more realistic, and that sounds funny, but I do feel like that seems more real to me than an angel giving you a message. Although I'm not saying it can't happen.
Yeah.
But I think the frequency of it would be more of you setting a thought or an intention or a vision and sending it back to yourself from when you were younger. How would you know?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I know that.
I love retrocausality and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Wrap this up?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have any other types of dreams that you know of, or any questions about what you think a dream means, we'd love to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your suggestions.
Yeah. Let us know if you've had any prophetic dreams or what you think it means. And
what do you think deja vu is?
What do you think deja vu is?
That French disease?
Anything. Yeah, that French disease.
All right, everybody. Till next time, stay high. Congratulations, you've made it all the way to the end of this long-ass podcast. And we want to thank you for joining us. And we want to hear from you. What answers do you have to these questions? What comments do you have? What insight do you have? Share with us. And what questions do you have for the answers? Find us on all podcast apps and on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. And of course, you can find us on our website. Thanks so much for listening, and stay high, everyone.